Welcome to our session on implementing music therapy into behavioral healthcare to treat autism spectrum disorder. I will now turn things over to our presenter.
Good morning, and thank you for being here, Dr. McDonald and Daryl and Mark and anyone else that may join us. It's my privilege to be here this morning and to present my research thus far. And could we have the next slide, please? So I'll simply read, and you can read along with me. The behavioral health leadership at the researchers' partner site, which is a university hospital, wants to implement services that will benefit children, teenagers, and adults. Hospitals need to periodically update the services and programs they offer to ensure they are adequately meeting the needs of the population and demographics they serve. Next slide, please. The purpose, the case study research aims to explore ways to implement music therapy with the ASD population, ASD meaning autism spectrum disorder, in a large size nonprofit behavioral health organization treating adults, children, and adolescents in the Western United States. The research question is exploring ways to implement music therapy with ASD children in a large hospital setting, identifying the benefits of an alternative treatment, in this case, music therapy, to complement existing therapeutic interventions for individuals with ASD. The significance of this study is significant because it will fill a gap in understanding by focusing specifically on implementing music therapy with the ASD community. The efficacy of using music therapy to improve a child's behavior and their social and emotional well-being has been well documented in the research. And I cited one of many hundreds of research that support this endeavor. Baldrige Excellence Framework 2021 will be used as the conceptual framework for this study. Next slide, please. And then here I listed the relevant scholarship thus far in my study. And again, I was amazed when I first started this, how much literature that is already out there that support my mindset and the thought about providing this type of treatment. And I'm also a professional musician as well. And so it coincides with I've had over 50 years of teaching children, and I currently teach children who are on the spectrum. So it's personal to me, and I have a passion for this. Next slide, please. The procedures is a semi-structured interviews with the behavioral health leaders and collecting secondary data. Currently, I have two people that I'm working with. One is a primary care physician who serves 10 children that are actually on the spectrum. The data analysis will involve thematic coding with theme identification for each interview. The data collected from public and governmental websites will be manually coded. Data about service needs, vision and mission, leadership strategies, and strategic development were collected from interviews and other communication with the BHL and also a clinical social worker and the hospital setting. Secondary sources interviews with the BHL revolve under the category of participants, social change patients, the professional work of pediatricians, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and therapists with more therapeutic choices for the ASD population once music therapy is implemented. Positive social changes will be lifelong for children with ASD, including academic opportunities and job placements as they mature. Next slide, please. And here I list just some of the many references. I actually have over 20 so far, and this is just a glimpse of some of the ones that support the idea of implementing music therapy into a healthcare, in this case, a hospital, university setting. Next slide, please. Here's some more references. And then what questions might you have about my study that I've just shared with you? The floor is open.
Thank you so much for sharing your research so far and your presentation. We do have time for questions, and since we have a small group, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can also type it into the chat as well. And I do have a question just to get us started off, if that's okay.
Sure.
My question is, what are you most looking forward to as you embark on the research process?
Frankly, I'm looking forward to, as I approach, ending the research in the next few months, actually presenting it to this hospital setting as we are supposed to do, legally and ethically or whatever. And I am excited because I believe there may be an opportunity where they may want to hire me to actually be the one to implement my research into a system and bringing this on board. The significance in this setting is there's actually let's just say more than 5 hospital settings and more than 40 clinics that could participate in this. And this particular behavioral health organization is actually international in its scope. And so on a personal basis, I would like to see this model duplicated throughout the world. Right now, there are some bad therapies that are out there. And in this particular setting, the only thing right now that my BHL, my behavioral health leader, can do is hand a business card with a social worker's name on it. And there's no stability with that because the social workers apparently change often. And there's no feedback. There's no communication as to what happens with those clients, with the families and the children after they give that referral. So I'd like to bring this internally so that they don't have to outsource and with ambiguity, and so that there can be tangible work with the children using music therapy. And music therapy is a very broad field. It can be everything from singing, humming, clapping your hands, using somewhat of a dance therapy along with it. So that's a glimpse of what I'd like to see happen. Let me see what Dr. Marcus said here.
Excellent. Yes. Mark has some great feedback in the chat, and his question is, do you have a sense of what implementing this program might require in terms of infrastructure? Would this programming need to be built from the ground up or added to an existing programming?
It would be from the ground up, as I mentioned, and it would require curriculum. It would require training lay people in some of the rudiments of what music therapy is. A person doesn't necessarily have to be a music therapist. And thanks to Dr. McDonald, by the way, I recently found out from feedback from him, I did not realize that now it's a hospital setting or any medical setting can actually bill out to major insurance companies and be reimbursed for the treatment. I thought it would just be an out-of-pocket expense. My BHO happens to be a nonprofit, and but the fact that they can bill out is really significant.
Hey, Art, this is Jack McDonald. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. I tried to switch to headphones and I completely lost my audio in doing so. Hey, first of all, thanks for making the time and the extra effort to put the presentation together. I appreciate it. I'm sure others on the call do as well. And since everyone, well, many others will have access after the call, I'm sure they'll appreciate that also. So thanks very much for doing that. Got a couple questions. One, why do you suppose your institution of interest has not yet introduced music therapy?
Good question. There's primarily because I think someone has to have a passion for this population. and really be willing to help them beyond giving out a business card. And
Right.
so it's an awareness of what music therapy can do and how it affects the brain. And I'm still doing deeper research to identify the areas of the brain that it affects, how it affects it, for all of us, for that matter. But the awareness of how it can help, number one. Number two, I think there's a fear issue that some people may have because they don't understand music and they don't understand how it can be beneficial. And so that's part of my research is showing the worthwhileness to it and how it can soothe not only a child and calm them down, but it also engages them so that they can begin to express their feelings and their emotions. So it's a psychoeducation issue that that needs to be brought on board so that parents and children can benefit from it. And by the way, Dr. McDonald and everyone that's listening with us, usually when the diagnosis of autism is given, and this is feedback directly from my behavioral health leader as well as other doctor friends that I have, it precipitates divorce or separation. 80%, according to research I've done so far, of the families that get this diagnosis either divorce or separate because they want to blame each other that the reason their child has been diagnosed with this is your fault, so to speak, and they point fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to implement with this also counseling and have parents have the ability to have counseling as an adjunct with marriage and family counselors that this facility and this organization already has in place. But the awareness of that also is important because if it's treated and handled correctly, it can keep families together. And there's also a psychoeducation piece to this where parents need to be trained how to implement music therapy at home and the benefits of it. So it's all encompassing.
Okay. Good. So here's one question / concern that I have, and what I find very, very valuable for me is that you and I come from very different perspectives, right? You have the passion and the knowledge and the creativity, which I lack. I probably have an overabundance of business analytics and skills that you may or may not have any interest in. Okay, so when we come together, and right now, think of me as the management of your behavioral health organization. Think of me as that side, and it almost is this not conflict, but it's a meeting where I have all of these activities going on, and I'm providing all of these services, and you have to convince me that I should take on another service to bill for and accommodate another set of providers. That's item number one. Item number two is you then have to demonstrate to me that there are enough existing providers who will write the appropriate diagnoses that will enable this therapy to be offered or implemented. So for me, I've got two, maybe more, but at least two barriers that I see to your success. And I think that your passion will help you overcome those barriers, but I think you need to consider how you would address those barriers head on. Okay.
I appreciate the question, Dr. McDonald. I actually have one or two personal friends that are CEOs of major hospitals here in California, and I've discussed this with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, frankly, how the CEOs who manage the financial portion and making a profit and all those things, how the stress level that they have, to me, is unbelievable. And it takes a special person. And I get Becker's hospital news on a daily or weekly basis and see all the CEOs that resign because of that stress level all the time, nationwide. And so to answer your question, the passion and the ambition that surround my interest in all of this, yes, someone does have to convince somebody that the numbers make sense and that they can make money and make profit off of it, and altruistically, when a large or medium-sized hospital or any size hospital, when you can convince a CEO that a program is worthwhile and beneficial, and you present to them a model that you believe would work and be successful, it's simply a matter of, can we put it into place and try it, see what happens? Because the trust has to be built, and that takes time.
Okay.
Does that make
Again, it makes sense. Yeah. So how will you define success for not so much within the study, but what is the ultimate goal that you're seeking to achieve post graduation? I mean, I think I know, but I also think I
okay.
also, and again, we could spend a lot of time on this. And I'll be happy to. We don't need to, bore everybody in this meeting with this topic, but I'm just wondering from a leadership perspective, what is the end game here?
The end game for me is I want to open up my own facility, and it's going to be named for my mother, the Francis Scott Counseling Center. My mother is still alive. I haven't talked to her in 40 years, but she's mentally ill, never diagnosed. And so I want to turn, in essence, lemons into lemonade. And I want to take that piece of my life and have it touch the lives of children and families long after I'm off this earth. And so I want to set up a nonprofit at this point, even though it's billable. That's when you shared that with me, it changed my whole picture, because I thought maybe you don't have to do this as a nonprofit if it's billable.
No,
and I
no,
want
let me just interrupt you for a second. Everybody, I mean, Medicare is the largest payer in the world, in the world of medical costs. And so they pay a lot of hospitals and providers who are not for profit. I mean, even nonprofits need to have revenue to pay salaries, et cetera.
Yes.
So don't automatically assume I'm because I wasn't trying to imply that you needed to have a for-profit focus. What I was trying to do with that one article I shared was just to let you know that the foundations are there for you. So you're much further along than you realize you might be. Okay.
And I deeply appreciate that, more than you ever know. So in my experience, I'm also at the same time in November taking the test and getting my license as an LPCC on the side. So that's been a big journey. And with this doctorate, it will establish credibility in many different realms, having a license in the state of California to be a counselor, as well as the PhD. But I in my journey in doing my counseling, I had to put in 3,000 hours with the PDS in California. And I worked in a facility in a school, K through 5, that had a circle main hub of a building, and it was built to serve the needs of the disability and special needs children. And there were 4 wings that sprocketed off of that. So it's wheelchair accessible. And from that model, I have put my own name on it, so to speak. I want to have an art wing, a music wing, a dance wing, and then a counseling wing. And then in the hub, there would be a facility where there could be concerts and children could perform either in music, art, or dance. And so I have huge plans that I believe through finding the right funding sources, because if you don't have sustainability, you have nothing. And so I've learned that from other friends that own nonprofits. So I want to have people that have a passion for this, that can donate millions of dollars to help me pull this off. I also collaborative when I have other music teachers, other art teachers, and dance teachers who have a passion for this field and want to pull it together. So I imagine in my mind having 400 children go in and out of this facility on a weekly basis. And so it's much broader than just this study. And so that's my passion. And it's because of Walden and because of the social change piece that I had at the end of my master's degree back in 2015. It's like, now that you have this degree, what are you going to do with it? And so even at age 67, I still have a passion for doing this, and so it drives me to wake up every morning.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay. Well, hey, like I said, you and I can chat more offline if you'd like, with your committee. But I'm just glad, I'm glad that you're pursuing this. I'm very supportive
Thank you.
Of the concept. So, I wish you the best in the pursuit of the final study. And, thanks for, indulging me in my questions today.
Do you have any other ones?
Not at this time, but thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. That was an excellent discussion. All right. We can give it just one more minute to see if we have any more questions in the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute themselves. And I can pose one more question here before we start to wrap things up. What is one piece of advice that you would give to other Walden students who are approaching this stage of their program?
Find your passion and and run with your ambition. I think there's being on the creative side, if there's something that you have thought about doing and that could bring about social change in a positive way, no matter what field it's in, it doesn't have to be music, it could be anything. It could be in sports or whatever, and find something that you just can have a passion and take the knowledge base of what Walden's master's and doctoral level programs and even bachelor programs give us, and somehow correlate those together to make great changes in this world. And I think each one of us, if we look in our souls, can find something that we can run with.
Right. Hey,
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I think that Mark posted a link to a resource in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat or not, but I just want to.
I see it. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Out of curiosity, Mallory, when people watch the recording and see what we've done in this session, is the chat also available in real time?
The chat will not be available, so I can just kind of read that through. So Mark shared a resource for NIH Kennedy Center Partnership around research around sound health.
Yeah, I just cut and paste it so I can grab it after
Excellent.
session. Thank you, Dr. Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you, Art.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you again. We so appreciate you sharing your experiences and your study with us today.